nobody got no beef with Eminem. Ain't no rapper popping nothing about Eminem. Ain't nobody saying nothing. I'm not even gonna say nothing bad about Eminem.
Get whoever you feel like is the best black artist and stand them face to face in a room with him, and he'll eat that alive.
Eminem was the one rapper no one wanted smoke with, not even Will Smith.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So when Will Smith walked on stage and slapped Chris Rock at the 2022 Oscars, the world was stunned. But real ones asked, would he have done that to Eminem?
I never killed nobody in none of my records. I don't use no profanity in none of my records, and still I managed to get up there.
Because back in the early 2000s, he almost did. And what happened next is something Will likely regrets to this day. Eminem wasn't just some wild white rapper. He was a product of Detroit's coldest blocks.
Were you there when Suge Knight showed up with the crew of Mexicans?
Fuck yeah, and I was there with the homies.
Eminem was there. Eminem was ready to go.
Oh yeah, for sure.
A man who had stared down Suge Knight and lived to rap about it. Keep watching, this gets deeper. Before the slap, before the Oscars, before the world even imagined Will Smith as a man who'd publicly lose his temper, he was America's favorite rapper. This was the late 1990s. Bill Clinton was still president. MTV was the pulse of pop culture. And Will Smith was on top of the world. Not only had he seamlessly transitioned from the goofy but lovable Fresh Prince of Bel-Air to blockbuster movie star with films like Men in Black and Independence Day, but he had also done what no rapper had done before. He kept it clean and still went multi-platinum. No profanity, no controversy, and yet the man was winning Grammys. His 1997 solo debut, Big Willie Style, sold over 10 million copies worldwide. Then came Millennium in 1999, a commercial juggernaut that earned him another Grammy in early 2000. Will was proof that rap didn't have to be street, vulgar, or violent to sell records, and he knew it.
I never killed nobody in none of my records. I don't use no profanity in none of my records, and still I managed to get up there.
So when he stood on stage at the 42nd Annual Grammy Awards in February 2000 and confidently said, "I've never used profanity in my records. Rap doesn't need to be filled with curses to succeed," the crowd applauded. But not everyone in the industry smiled, because somewhere across the country in Detroit, a storm was brewing. That same year, a 26-year-old Marshall Mathers, known to the world as Eminem, had just released the Slim Shady LP. A chaotic, blood-splattered masterpiece of lyrical violence, drug-fueled insanity, and dark humor. The album introduced mainstream America to a different kind of white rapper. This wasn't Vanilla Ice. This was Slim Shady, a psychotic alter ego born in the cracks of poverty, drugs, and rage. Eminem was everything Will Smith wasn't. Dangerous, unpredictable, vulgar, real. And when M heard Will's no cursing comment, it wasn't just noise. To him, it felt like a public shot. A jab at artists like him who didn't come from a Hollywood background, who had to bleed on records to be heard, artists who didn't have the luxury of sitcom fame or summer blockbusters. So, in 2000, when Eminem dropped the real Slim Shady, he didn't hold back. Right in the middle of the track, over a beat that would become legendary, he spit, "Will Smith don't gotta cuss in his raps to sell records. Well, I do, so F him and F you too." It was raw, it was bold, it was direct, and it hit. The line lit the industry on fire. Radio stations beeped it, parents groups protested it, but young America, they memorized it, chanted it, quoted it on playgrounds and in high schools. This wasn't just a lyrical jab. It was a declaration of war on the establishment, on the clean, polished, PG-13 version of rap music that Will Smith represented. And it sent a very clear message: I'm not here to play nice. But here's where it gets deeper. Behind the scenes, M's shot at Will wasn't just about profanity, it was about power, about credibility, about who really deserved to sit at the top of the hip-hop pyramid in the 2000s. Because while Will was being flown to movie sets and red carpets, Eminem was fighting battles of a different kind. Legal cases, death threats, addiction, and constant censorship. He wasn't just an entertainer, he was a survivor. And unlike Will, Eminem didn't care about being liked. He didn't care about the Grammys. He cared about respect. And this moment, this lyrical ambush was the start of something darker. Because from that point on, people started asking, was Will Smith afraid of Eminem? And more importantly, what would happen if their paths ever crossed face to face? To most of Hollywood, Eminem looked like a gimmick, a bleach-blond white boy screaming into a mic, a cartoonish figure with an attitude problem. Will Smith, like many, assumed he was just another shock value rapper who'd burn out fast. But behind the scenes, the story was far more dangerous. By 1999,
City, we out with Proof with D12, baby. Eminem like that song go in. Tell them what you like. Tell them what you be, baby.
I be straight Detroit.
Eminem's rise wasn't just driven by catchy hooks or controversy. It was built on a deeply rooted street alliance in Detroit. His right-hand man, Deshaun Proof Holton, wasn't just his childhood friend. Proof was a respected figure in Detroit's East Side hip-hop scene, a battle rap veteran, and the leader of the rap collective D12, a group known not only for lyrical skills, but real street credibility. Proof acted as more than a hype man. He was M's bodyguard, his street advisor, and his validator. When Eminem walked into dangerous circles, Proof was the reason he walked back out unharmed. In a city where being the wrong color in the wrong part of town could end careers or worse, Proof made sure M was untouchable in Detroit. And M's reach didn't end in his hometown. In 1998, Dr. Dre had signed Eminem to Aftermath Entertainment, a power move that would shift the balance of hip-hop. Dre, still respected for his legacy with NWA and Death Row, had found a new weapon. With Dre's production, industry connections, and business machine, Eminem went from local fire starter to national phenomenon. And Will Smith. He had no idea that beneath Eminem's clownish facade stood a man who was rapidly becoming one of the most protected and connected artists in music. By 2000, Eminem had already been in multiple real-life altercations. That summer, he was arrested for pistol whipping a man outside of Hot Rock Sports Bar in Warren, Michigan, an incident that landed him probation. This wasn't stage play. It was a man navigating real beef in and outside the booth. Then came the expansion. In early 2002, a Queens-born mixtape hustler named Curtis 50 Cent Jackson was signed to a joint venture between Eminem's Shady Records and Dr. Dre's Aftermath. At that time, 50 Cent had already survived 9 gunshots, been dropped from Columbia Records, and was banned by many in the industry for being too dangerous.
I don't have the trophies that match how big the actual records are. The one Grammy I have is for Crack a Bottle. I couldn't even have that without him. You know, and that's why I have so much value for him.
Eminem brought him in anyway. Together with Dre funding and Interscope backing, they built a juggernaut. G-Unit, Shady, and Aftermath formed a triangular power base that could end careers or defend their own with ruthless efficiency. So when Eminem barked on a track, it wasn't just one man talking. It was Dr. Dre, 50 Cent, Proof, D12, Jimmy Iovine, and an army of lawyers, shooters, and strategists backing every word. But the real test of Eminem's fearlessness didn't come through a mic. It came through the shadows of Death Row. Suge Knight, the co-founder of Death Row Records, was known across the music world as a violent enforcer with ties to the Bloods and a reputation for intimidation. During the early 2000s, Suge was still looming in the background of West Coast rap, feared by artists and executives alike. And yet, in an incident later recalled by Compton rapper The Game, Eminem didn't flinch when Suge Knight and his men rolled up, the lights dimmed. Tension filled the room. Suge stepped in, flanked by Muscle, uninvited. While others froze or exited quietly, Eminem reportedly stood his ground, ready to throw fists if needed. According to Game, M was ready for war, and 50, fresh off the streets himself, backed it up. This moment was crucial. Suge Knight had built an empire off fear, but here was a white rapper from Detroit who didn't just rap about violence. He had the mindset and the muscle to match it. Also, many fans think Eminem's security was just regular bodyguards, people hired to keep him safe at shows or events. But some reports from people close to the streets tell a different story. Eminem had support from Samoan gangs in Los Angeles, groups known for being tough and loyal.
So Eminem was getting extorted by some Crips.
Meaning that they're saying you can't come out here unless you pay us, or...
Yeah, maybe like he was paying them money and just like getting bullied.
These weren't just bodyguards in suits. They were street fighters, often called a Samoan army. They've been around since the 1990s, known in South Central LA for their strength and loyalty. And Will Smith. Will was playing a different game. He was starring in Ali by 2001. hosting award shows, meeting diplomats, and taking photos with presidents. His name was clean. Hhis brand was polished. He wasn't built for rap beefs in alleyways or parking lots. His moves were made through agents, publicists, and billion-dollar studios. So when Eminem called him out in a track, Will stayed silent, because silence was smarter. By 2001, to feud with Eminem wasn't just a rap disagreement, it was war with an entire industry machine built to protect its star. From Dre's quiet but ruthless business strategy, to Proof street enforcement, to 50 Cent's growing empire, Eminem wasn't a man to play with, and Will Smith knew it, because by then, it wasn't just about bars, it was about who had power behind them and who didn't. To the average viewer, Will Smith's Grammy speech seemed harmless, another clean-cut artist encouraging positivity in a genre often accused of glorifying violence. The media praised him, parents applauded, but behind the scenes, the temperature was rising. Eminem wasn't laughing. Sources close to Interscope Records and Aftermath Entertainment would later reveal that Eminem saw Will Smith's remarks not as a general comment but as a direct attack. To him, it wasn't about clean music. It was about control, about the unspoken tension between two very different versions of hip-hop, one polished for primetime television, the other clawed from the gutter. And in Eminem's eyes, Will Smith wasn't just speaking for himself. He was speaking on behalf of Hollywood's elite studio heads, award show producers, late-night hosts, label executives, people who never wanted a rapper like Eminem to sit at the same table. By mid-2000, Eminem was growing increasingly paranoid about censorship. Behind closed doors, his lyrics were being dissected by FCC regulators and parental advisory boards. His videos were being heavily edited. Talk show hosts wouldn't let him perform uncensored. Lawsuits were beginning to pile up from his mother, his ex-wife, even random strangers offended by his content. He felt surrounded. So when Will Smith made that Grammy comment in February 2000, right as Eminem's The Slim Shady LP was blowing up, it felt strategic. Like someone had chosen Will, a safe, friendly, industry-protected figure to serve as the industry's polite hitman, the smiling assassin. And M responded the only way he knew how, through music. In May 2000, just 3 months later, he dropped The Real Slim Shady, a blistering, sarcastic, hyper-violent single from the Marshall Mathers LP, produced by Dr. Dre. The track went straight for the jugular. No metaphors, no subliminals. Just, Will Smith don't gotta cuss in his raps to sell records. Well, I do, so F him, and F you too. The line echoed through radio stations, classrooms, and record stores. It was controversial, but also catchy, fueling Eminem's brand as the unfiltered voice of a generation. By June 2000, The Real Slim Shady had climbed to #1 on the UK singles chart and entered the top 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. MTV played the video on rotation. Eminem was now a global sensation and his target was crystal clear. Meanwhile, Will Smith's album Millennium, released just 6 months earlier in November 1999, was already beginning to fade from charts. Despite decent sales and the hit single Will 2K, it couldn't compete with Eminem's cultural grip. Then came the whispers. Industry insiders say that shortly after Eminem's track hit, a closed-door meeting happened at either Sony Music or Columbia Pictures, where Will Smith was told to stand down. No public response, no rebuttal tracks, no interviews, nothing. One rumor points directly to Dr. Dre. Allegedly, Dre, who maintained friendly ties with many executives in Hollywood and had worked with Will Smith's collaborators in the past, personally warned Will to let it go. Some say the warning was professional. Others say it was more firm. Whether it happened or not, the result was the same. Will Smith never said another word about Eminem. Not in an interview, not in a lyric, not even off the cuff. Publicly, Will focused on film. He went on to star in Ali, 2001, Men in Black 2, 2002, and Bad Boys 2, 2003. His rap career became a side act. Meanwhile, Eminem dropped the Marshall Mathers LP in May 2000, selling 1.76 million copies in its first week, a record that stood for over a decade. Behind the curtains, though, there was tension. The BET Awards, MTV Movie Awards, Grammy pre-parties. These were spaces where both men occasionally appeared but never interacted. Body language experts and fans noticed. No handshakes, no nods, no eye contact. Eminem, often flanked by Proof or 50 Cent, stayed distant. Will Smith, typically surrounded by publicists and family, did the same. Hollywood insiders claimed event organizers had to stagger arrivals or place them in different sections just in case something was said that couldn't be unsaid. Because even though Will was the crowd-pleasing superstar and Eminem Eminem was the foul-mouthed troublemaker, the power balance had shifted.
His character is like, it's cool because I can do other things with him that ain't me.
By 2002, Eminem wasn't just a rapper anymore. He had become Hollywood adjacent himself. 8 Mile was in development. He was being courted by major studios. He had Dre, Iovine, and a fast-rising 50 Cent behind him. He wasn't just surviving in Hollywood, he was shaping it. Will Smith, for all his charm, knew the game better than most. He wasn't about to start a war he couldn't control. The result? A cold silence that lasted decades. But while fans thought the moment passed, the truth is, the tension never fully disappeared. It simply slipped underground, dormant, waiting. Because beef in Hollywood doesn't always end with diss tracks. Sometimes, it just waits for the right moment to come back. By the early 2000s, Eminem was no longer just the brash white boy spitting shock value lyrics. He was moving like a commander, carefully, forcefully, and always protected. While the public still saw him as a controversial entertainer, those in the streets and the industry began to realize something else. Eminem wasn't just rapping about violence, he was prepared for it. In 2003, whispers spread that certain Crip-affiliated sets in South Central LA wanted Eminem to check in before filming or performing in their territory. In street culture, check-in is not a courtesy, it's a demand for respect. In most cases, artists avoid the heat or send intermediaries.
I don't know the exact details, but so I don't know the exact details, but I do know that a few phone calls were made.
But Eminem didn't fold. He showed up anyway with protection most people didn't even know existed. According to sources close to Aftermath Entertainment, Eminem's defense in Los Angeles didn't come from bodyguards and suits. It came from Dr. Dre's network, including a Samoan set long rumored to be behind much of Dre's quiet security muscle. These men had once patrolled Death Row Records, stood guard through the volatile Suge Knight years, and knew how real violence played out. Their loyalty to Dre extended to Eminem, his most valuable asset. But Eminem wasn't just relying on Dre's reach. He was building his own. Back in Detroit, his best friend and D12's frontman Proof handled everything from threats to keeping opportunists away from M's circle. Proof wasn't just a rapper. He had weight in the streets. If something stirred in the 313, he was the buffer. In New York, Eminem had aligned with 50 Cent, who was already a street-certified name by the time Get Rich or Die Tryin' dropped in 2003. With him came G-Unit, a crew from Southside Queens known for surviving real-life gunplay. Together, they formed a cross-regional alliance under shady Aftermath. Insiders claim Eminem personally funded parts of 50's early campaign tour security, promotions, even manpower. Nothing official was documented, but in a 2003 Hot 97 interview, 50 Cent said, "Eminem believed in me when nobody else did. He didn't just rap with me, he protected me." Eminem stopped moving solo. Whether attending an awards show in LA, a Miami party, or a press run in Chicago, his movements were layered with protection, from private guards to street-connected allies. He had seen what happened to Tupac, watched others fall trying to straddle fame and street warfare without structure. M moved differently. He turned his label into a fortress. In 2004, during a show in LA, a known West Coast gang reportedly entered the backstage area. Whether to test him or not is unclear, but witnesses said they exited quietly, greeted not just by security but by Dre's Samoan team and Detroit enforcers flown in for the event. Eminem wasn't an easy target. He'd built real alliances across Detroit, New York, and Los Angeles, America's 3 most dangerous hip-hop cities. And he moved like a man ready for real war, not just diss tracks. Even his lyrics hinted at the reality he lived in. Tracks like White America, Till I Collapse, and Like Toy Soldiers were filled with metaphors about betrayal, surveillance, and what it costs to lead a movement people want to destroy. His paranoia was never just entertainment, it was survival. Will Smith, protected by agents and studios, had likely never operated in this kind of world. Eminem thrived in it. By 2005, people still debated if M was just a wild artist or something darker. But those who had crossed him, rappers, labels, even gang affiliates already knew the truth. Eminem wasn't just rapping about pulling up. He pulled up with backup you never saw coming. So why did Will Smith speak on Eminem at all? Some think it was jealousy. Others think it was about Hollywood pressure. Clean up hip-hop, protect your image. But here's where it backfired. Eminem made him look outdated. He made Will's entire approach look soft. And worse, he exposed the fear underneath the Hollywood smile. Eminem's Grammy speech while wearing a free Yayo shirt was sending messages to the streets, not the suburbs. The internet went crazy saying Will Smith wasn't built for this type of war. And they were right.
Oh, wow!
After the infamous Chris Rock slap, social media exploded with memes. Would Will Smith have slapped Eminem like that? The answer? Highly unlikely. Even though Eminem is older now, the stories from the 2000s still haunt people. He was erratic, unpredictable, violent. Some insiders even say Eminem once chased down a local Detroit DJ who refused to play his music with a weapon in hand. No arrests were made, no proof. But the stories never stopped. Eminem wasn't playing a character. He was the character. After the beef, Will never truly recovered as a rapper. His next albums barely made noise. Meanwhile, Eminem dropped The Eminem Show, one of the biggest albums of the decade. Some fans believe Dre intentionally pushed Eminem harder after the Will Smith moment. Again, nothing confirmed, but all evidence points to the fact that M took that shot from Will personally and destroyed him musically. Insiders claim Will told friends years later that he underestimated M. And after the Rock slap, some even said that was Will taking out 20 years of repressed rage on the wrong guy. Today, Eminem is a Hall of Famer. Will Smith, an Oscar winner, but one whose name still trends for the wrong reasons, all because he chose to make a comment in 1999 about the wrong white rapper. Eminem never needed to reply twice. That one line in The Real Slim Shady told us everything. Will never responded, because deep down he knew the truth. Eminem wasn't just a better rapper. He was the kind of man you didn't want to see in real life. Some beef lasts for months, others last decades in silence. This one, it was over before it started. Because when it comes to Eminem, sometimes one line is all it takes. And for Will Smith, that line aged like a warning shot. A warning he's probably still hearing today.